He was the son of the local doctor, and for 7 generations, we Sirolli lived in that little village since 1680. The family of physicians. My first ancestor was very much what you would call an alchemist. He was making potions. We still have his beautiful chemistry vases with. We have some deer antlers that have been cut because he was, in 1700, he was making potions with all sorts of minerals, and including deer antlers and so on. When I was 4 years old, my father moved to Rome and opened up a medical studio. He was a radiologist. He specialized. And then I went to school in Rome, but I have an experience that your audience probably will enjoy listening to, because my father became the head of radiology in the civic hospital in Libya, in Benghazi. And Benghazi, so the family moved, and I lived 3 years, and I went to school in Libya when I was 9, 10, 11. And it was an absolutely extraordinary experience for me, because it was an Italian school. Okay. But the children were from all over the Mediterranean and beyond. See, Libya before Gaddafi was a kingdom, was controlled by the Turkish king, Idris II. So it was a kingdom, and oil had been discovered. So my school friends were American, English, French, Saudi, Greeks, Maltese. They were Turks. They were Libyans, of course. They were Palestinians. They were Jews. And in my class, we had 35 children. And my 2 best friends, one was a Palestinian Arab, and the other one was a Jewish from Israel, an Israeli Jew. So the 2 of them never talked to each other, but the 3 of us were inseparable. So we had 3 bicycles, and we were always together. And I was the one who spoke to both. So one would say, let's go to the movies, and I would say to the other one, let's go to the movies. And I never realized until later how important that multicultural experience was for me, because I was invited in the house of the Arab, and I met the Arab parents. I was invited in the house of the Jew, and I met the Jewish parents, and they both loved me. They were absolutely wonderful people. And I could never understand what the problem was between the 2 of them. I, years later, and only years later, I saw a picture of our classroom. And it was a black and white picture of us, 35 of us, on the school outing, in the school picnic. And we were, all of us, all boys, we were at the beach, and we were in our bathing suits. And for the first time ever, I realized that one of my friends, who was a Libyan, Husni was black. And I had absolutely no recollection that Husni was black, because for kids, Husni is your best friend. You don't even look, you are not aware. It's like race, skin color are completely invisible to young people. So I think that in terms of schooling, those 3 years changed my life. I always felt incredibly at home, traveling in diverse cultures, and it's been very much a signpost. I would say that my life has been the way it is because of those 3 years in multicultural diversity. Came back to Italy, study with the Christian Brothers in a beautiful school that is known worldwide because it's Spanish Steps. Spanish Steps is one of the greatest attractions of Rome. My school was in Spanish Steps, and I spent a total of 13 years being educated in this private school, this Christian Brothers school. Then I went to Rome University and I graduated in political sciences. And then I went to South Africa to do my postdoctoral degree, a PhD in sustainable development. And then, even before I left Italy, when I was 21, I started to work for an Italian NGO in Africa. So I worked in Zambia, Kenya, Ivory Coast, Algeria, Somalia, in projects of international aid. So I would say that I was just thinking about how many years in my life actually I lived in Italy. And I can tell you that so far I lived 25 years in the United States, 20 years in Australia, and I worked and lived for 9 years. 9 years in various African countries. So I would say that I spent much more time away from Italy than in Italy, even though I have a house there, I have relatives, I have children who live in Italy. So yes, a very international life.
Thank you so much. And in regard with the learnings you learned from the journey, can you please share that, sir? Any key learnings?
Oh, absolutely. I am doing what I'm doing now because of my experiences in Africa. I have to say that some people will love to go and watch my TED Talks, and I have one TED Talk that is that tells the story of my very first project in Africa as an Italian NGO. And absolutely, it is that kind of experience that was transformational. We would, as Italians, we always thought that we were a so superior to the African people. We Italians are the most arrogant people in the world. We believe that the world exists because of Italian civilization, which is absolutely ludicrous. But in any case, as Italians, we would go to Africa to teach African people how to do things. And I tell these hilarious stories of our first failure in Africa when we convinced the African people, the Zambian people, to grow Italian tomatoes and Italian zucchinis and by the Zambezi River. And it was a disaster because as soon as the tomatoes were ripe, the hippos came out of the Zambezi River and they ate all our tomatoes. And only then we realized that that was the worst place in the world to plant Italian crops. And we said to the native people, did you know about the hippos? And they said, yeah, that's why we have no agriculture here. Why didn't you tell us that you were paying us every night to buy your stuff? And we said, let's take the money. So the local people were so much smarter than us. And every single project was the same. We would arrive with a bunch of money, and the native people would say, give it to us. And then as soon as the money ran out, they went back to do exactly what they were doing before, because we're not, culture, eats technology for breakfast. Unless the culture accepts it, technology is nothing. It's like technology is like convincing my mother in Italy to use a microwave oven to cook spaghetti. My mother will never use a microwave oven to cook spaghetti. And so the people, the technology solution, these people are fools. They say, oh, the microwave oven is faster. Sure, but, time is not the problem that my mother has.
Correct.
My mother, the only satisfaction is to have a meal at night, and actually, it is honorable to spend an entire day making the spaghetti by hand. So the idea that you want to save the money, save my mother time. The only thing my mother has is time. So I speak at conferences about this, people say, oh, but the solution to Africa is solar ovens. They can cook with the sun. So say, what are you talking about? They only cook at night. And you go to Africa with a solar oven. It's crazy. I mean, the arrogance of ignorance, and in all development, really, the entire international aid. Guys, I was 21 when I understood what kind of fools we were. And I had such a profound crisis that that crisis really changed my life, because I tried to investigate what else can we do, what does make sense. And so then I came across the work of Ernest Schumacher, Small is Beautiful. I came across his concept of Buddhist economy. Buddhist economy is an economy that is about personal liberation. It's about personal reward. It's nothing to do with, make more money. More money by doing something that will kill everything around you in 2 generations. I mean, what kind of stupidity is that? Not even, absolutely extraordinary experiences that I had as a very, very young man, which have shaped my future life.
Thank you so much, Doctor, because when you mention, I've heard this as well, whenever the term Africa comes, when we're talking about sustainable development or energy, first thing is solar, and then immediately Africa. So when you said this, I was reminded of that. Thank you so much, and especially with the level of varied sectors, varied countries, multi-sectoral, multinational, multi-ethnic approach which you possess, and where you have created impact. We'll see this in the second segment now, which is sustainable development. We have different levels of viewers. So we'll start with what is sustainable development, what is development, what is sustainable development, and why it is important. And then we'll go slowly into the areas where you have impacted, sir. Over to you.
Absolutely. Well, I have yet to find a single university professor in the world who knows where the word develop come from. And so when people said to me that define sustainable development, I laugh and I throw the question back at them to say, you tell me what the word develop means first. And I'm 70 years old, and I work internationally, and I have never, ever in my life met a single university professor who teaches sustainable development who knew where the word develop come from. And the word develop is a word composed by a prefix, which is de, and then there is a word which is velop, velop. Velop is the root of the word. And in the English language, you have another word which has a prefix, and then the word velop, and is envelope. Okay, so it's develop and envelope.
Oh.
So what is the word velop? Where does it come from?
Yes.
Which language? The word velop comes from the Latin and comes from the word vellum.
Okay.
V-E-L-L-U-M. Vellum is a sheepskin.
Oh.
When you skin a sheep, you end up with the skin with the wool on. That's called vellum.
Okay.
Okay. The Romans used the vellum to carry things in.
Okay.
So we'll get a full sheepskin. They will put all their possessions, not the sheepskin, put a stick through, put it on the shoulder. That was a suitcase, was a way of carrying things.
Okay.
So the word develop is about untying the knots of the vellum and opening up the vellum. That's develop, which means you open up, you unfold to see what's inside. You give air. So develop, the best metaphor for develop is the husk. There is the seed inside the husk. And what happens is that you put this husk, some husks require moisture to break open.
Correct.
Some husks require fire through a forest fire for some husks to break so that the new tree can grow. And the husk is the metaphor. To develop means removing the husk.
Okay.
If inside there is a seed, it will grow.
Okay.
So development, the only thing you can do in development is to provide the environment which allows the maximum number of husks to open. So psychology, and that's where I became interested in psychology. Psychology says that some people grow through natural love. So the parents give the child love. This love is the nutrients that get that husk to crack open. And then the child will start to grow. Some people require fire, a hot fire, pain to grow. You know, a spoiled woman has been kept by a man in a child stage until he leaves her. The pain of rejection makes her so angry that fire says, I'm going to show you. Now I'm going to become the woman that I am. I'm not. And so what happens that through pain, some people crack open. And there is this absolutely beautiful, beautiful thing that I heard in Africa. There is a special plant in Africa,
Okay.
that only cracks open. They pop only cracks open if it's been digested by an elephant.
What? Okay. Okay.
Unless the seed with the husk is being digested by an elephant, the husk will not crack open and the plant will not regenerate. So I said that some people have to absolutely go through shit to grow up. So, I mean, it's a bit rude, but you have to understand that some people really are so stubborn that it takes a hell of a lot of pain for them to grow up, to start to at least to allow. And people say, it is it's through the cracks that the light come in. So it's through the imperfections. You can have a pot, it's beautiful, but there is no light inside, and it's through the cracks that you have light coming in. And so in psychology, sometimes people start to become self-aware only when they are shocked by pain, by a tragedy, and that's why there is so much good that is going to come out of this pandemic, because some people have been shocked to say, what kind of a life I'm living? It's really, I'm dedicating all my life to do things which are not very important. So it's now, sustainable development is when you create an infrastructure that allows the maximum number of people to grow up. So you create the nutrients not only for this generation, but for generations to come. So that you are really creating, imagine you're a gardener. You are not putting a very quick superphosphates or fertilizer because you want a crop now. No, what are you doing? You are creating a bed. You are building the soil, and every crop will increase the quality of your soil. So, or you make sure that you have rotation so that you leave some land fallow, so that you are not destroying the fertility. So there is a wonderful metaphor, and I think that they're knowing that development comes from unfolding, is about understanding that you cannot flower the flower. If you actually physically, you try to open the petals, you're killing it.
Correct.
So the only thing you can do is to be the fertilizer. And I remember my very, very first trainee, when I explained that we create an environment that is a supportive, caring, respectful, listening environment, so that the person can tell what her dream is, his dream is, and then we help them to find the resources to grow their idea into a beautiful activity. I told my very first trainee, you have to be the manure. And he said, what kind of a job is that, to be the manure? And I said, the manure is a beautiful substance. And I said, it's much better to be the manure than to be a fool who believes that you can flower the flowers. Right. Because the flowers flower by themselves. You can only create the environment, the circumstances
for them. Okay. And sir, when it comes to this development, when you explained about this, how important it is to understand the parchment of the skin from the sheep, where we keep the all the materials, and then we tie it, and then this is basically dehusking or opening the husk, and creating an environment for things to grow, and not just for that particular level or that particular generation, but for the future generations. Do we really have that kind of thinking when you see globally, sir? Because you have seen globally how this development is happening.
No, I started 40 years ago practicing this kind of responsive way of development, and the way so after the disappointments of working in Africa, I became intrigued by the work of an economist called Ernest Schumacher, who introduced me to this concept of Buddhist economy, gentle, based on helping the individual to become the best possible human being by doing beautifully what she loves, or by doing beautifully what he loves. So then, with this kind of concept of responsive development, I then became very intrigued by psychology, and I became a student of humanistic psychology. That is a psychology that is person-centered, where the person in front of you is the most important person in the relationship. It's not in Western medicine, in Western psychiatry, the doctor is more important than the patient. But in humanistic psychology, the patient is unique, is a subject of awe and admiration, where you listen to this person and you try to understand why is the potential of this person blocked? What is stopping this person from becoming the beautiful woman, the beautiful man that they are? And so is a process that is a process which says, where is the beauty, and why is the beauty blocked, and what is stopping the beauty? So I became very interested in this kind of approach, which says there is unique talents given to all of us. Some people are capable of expressing their inner talent, their beauty, and some people are incapable of doing it. Right. And according to humanistic counseling and the work of Carl Rogers, there is nothing wrong with the person. What the problem with the person is that he doesn't know that there are obstacles put in front of him. So what is important is to see that you can remove the problem. Is not the person, the problem are the obstacles. So the moment that you make the person aware that there are obstacles, and you help to remove the obstacle, the person can keep growing. So I became very interested. And then I said, my professor at the university, they said, okay, you want to do development in response, but we don't believe that people in rural India, we don't believe that the people who are not educated have the ability to become this beautiful artisan, business person, because I think that we have to tell them what to do. And so my professor, they challenged me to say, prove it that you can work in response. Prove it that you are not going to arrive in a community as a missionary for a social solar technology. Show us that you are not going to arrive in a community to tell them, what they should be doing. So for the last 35 years, I have proven that if invited by a community, and if you can create a free, confidential, caring, responsive approach to local development by training a person who becomes an enterprise facilitator. The person is paid by a third party, could be a government, a foundation, a corporation that wants to establish better relationship with the community. And then the enterprise facilitator is taught by us never to initiate any project, never to motivate anybody, but to become available, free and confidential, with any person in that village who has a dream to improve herself or himself. And then you listen to them to say, what's your dream? What do you want to do? And then you hear the most extraordinary stories. You discover that in that community, this person is a fantastic artisan, but doesn't know how to make money because doesn't know how to take the product to the market. Or you discover that there are 200 growers that produce organic, beautiful product. Again, they've been exploited by a buyer who keeps them poor. And the moment they come to you, you say, why don't you get one of your children to become your marketing person? And they say, wow, we never thought about it, because we think we are poor, we're ignorant, we do not know how to go to the market. They say, well, do you know somebody who can do that for you? Say, yeah, but we don't have the money to pay the person. Say, okay, get the person to become your marketing director on a commission basis. You give him, 1,000 tons of millet every year, and you say to him, you sell it, you take 10%. And people have this kind of revelations about how easy it is to go from poverty to be able to feed the family if you simply find people who know how to do what you don't know how to do, and you create a relationship. So we have worked in 400 communities around the world, and we have helped to start some 55,000 businesses. I think that India is prime for enterprise facilitation because of the richness, because of your extraordinary demographic growth. Everything you produce, there is a market for it in India. And so but I've never been invited. The Indian people do not know me. And I had never been invited to India to do any things. But enterprise facilitation, this responsive, caring, loving approach would fit your philosophy beautifully.
Okay. In regard with comparing other countries, yes, of course, you touched on India, but then where do you see India is in now, and how do you see it could improve? In what areas? Of course, the biodiversity part we already touched.
Oh my God. You go from you don't even have mining. India is one of the richest mining countries in the mining continents. And right now, your bureaucracy is such that you don't have mining. And my God, if you would simply create regulations for beautiful mining projects, it's one of the richest mining continents in the world. You could, produce billions of dollars every year. Just, mining in India is 3,000 years old. And yet now it's nearly impossible to have exploration permits. Everything from your agriculture is phenomenal, your mining resources are untouched, and your intelligence. I mean, I don't know how many Silicon Valley CEOs are Indians. I mean, you have brains, you have brain power. You have some of the best technology people in the world. I mean, you're a continent of billions of 1.2. How many? 1.2 billion now?
Correct.
Can you imagine? You have already you have 250 million millionaires in India. It's an extraordinary. I mean, it's not a country; it's a continent, and also your history, your it's like, come on. Not even, it should be. I think that India is a superpower, and whether you recognize it or not, and I think that the moment you let people blossom, I think that the only thing India has to do is to create the preconditions for
people
to become.
People to develop. That will actually
the best they can, and then they will show the world.
Right. Thank you so much. And what areas, like when you have traveled across and you have done this impact, any memorable instances you would like to share from any countries where one, as you started saying, having tomatoes in a place where they'll have which is not appropriate. That was on a lighter note when you shared. But are there any revelations which you you planned something, but when you went there, you understood it's a little bit in a different landscape?
No, look, I can tell you stories which are so they go from hilarious to absolutely tragic about and even today international aid is a full disaster. I have yet to see a single international aid projects in the world that is being created in response for a real need of the local people. I still have not seen any. Let me tell you the greatest intellectual disaster in international aid. The greatest intellectual disaster is the millennial villages in Africa. The biggest brains in development, and I'm not giving names because it would be a little bit too embarrassing for them, the biggest brain in development, supported by the biggest foundation working in Africa, they got together, and the biggest brains said, we have a problem in development in Africa. And the problem is that you cannot go to a village and change technology unless you change the education. And you cannot change the education system if the kids are sick. But you cannot change the health if the houses are not appropriate, if they don't have toilets.
Right.
And you cannot change the house unless you have electricity, and you cannot have it. So they said, you have to do everything at once. You have to go to a village and do everything. You have to look holistically. You have to say, okay, we have to rethink water quality, sewer system, housing, schooling, training, job creation. We have to do everything at once. So these geniuses got money from the biggest foundation in the United States, and they went to this African village and they said, okay, this is an experimental village. We do everything. And they spent $35,000 American dollars per man, woman, and child in that village. Okay. So how did the project fail? I'm asking you. Tell me.
Because they didn't understand the local
fail.
They did not understand the local requirement, and the alignment between the need and the what was given was not matching.
The local people love it. They say, give us the money. The local people had they say, please, this is fantastic, give us the money. Why did the project fail?
One is that. The other one would be like probably instead of going it in an organic way, when they pushed it all at once, that could be another reason. Instead of taking it organic growth, no? Okay. I do not know, sir.
All the villagers for all the neighboring villages came in.
So they left their village and they came here.
Yeah, because in a village where they give you $35,000 per person per year, in Africa, where they're making $100 a year, all the neighbors came in. So the village of 10,000 people became a village of 100,000 people, and everybody was poor again.
Oh my God.
but nobody has thought about it.
Oh my God.
So what happens in development is it is like backing a truck with 4 trailers. Is the smallest deviation from the model creates havoc.
And the whole thing trailer.
So imagine what would happen in a rural village in India if a rich benefactor would come and give money to the local people and build beautiful houses. All the relatives will move in.
Exactly. Oh my God. Okay.
So people are. I can tell you, I've been working in Africa since 1971, and I have never seen a sustainable international aid project in Africa. It only lasts the time that the money lasts. As soon as the money runs out, the African people go and do exactly what they were doing before. The only projects that they have continuity are education, but you have to be very careful, because sometimes when you educate in a Western way local people, then they tend to abandon the villages. Sometimes they even abandon the country. I have the most extraordinary project. Somebody told me the story of a university in Italy that is a university which is endowed by a coffee company. One of the largest coffee companies in the world is Italian. They buy coffee all over the world, and then they sell it to the world. And they have an endowment, and they have endowed a university. And this university in Italy set up scholarships for Colombian and Latin American young people who want to study coffee making, coffee, production, coffee, not production, but industrial coffee. And they told me the story of a group of some 25 Latin American young men and women who came to study in Italy. None of them went back to the country.
Oh my God.
So the only way to do development is by helping local people do beautifully what they love to do locally. And the only way is to make sure that the service is delivered locally, and that the local person is paid in local currency, and that the local people can pay the salary of the local, after the initial period of training, that the local people can pay the salary of the local person. In other words, what we have done, we have invented the family doctor of business, who is a local person who is trained, who lives in the community, speaks the local language, speaks the local dialect, and that person lives in the village, and that man or that woman then pass on the principles of good entrepreneurship, how you go from solitude to form a team capable of producing it, selling it, and look after the money. And this knowledge is passed locally, in the local dialect, by a local person to every single entrepreneur, every single person with a dream in the village. The salary has to be in local currency, because if you put in one person in a village who is paid international rates, then their job will be paid 10 times the salary of the richest person in town. And then the richest person, the chief in the village, would want the job for himself.
Right.
So you have to make sure that you create a system that is tamper-proof, and it's a system where the enterprise facilitator is just a professional, like a paramedic, like a nurse, but
Right.
it's a paramedic of business, it's a nurse of business. It's somebody that you can go to say, how come I'm not making any money? I work so hard. What's wrong with me? Why my neighbor is making money and I am not making money? I'm better than my neighbor, but I do not know how he can make money with the same product. Well, because your neighbor has a son who every morning takes the product to the market. Whereas you are waiting for the agent to come and to offer you a pittance for your crops. That's why there's a difference. So it could be 1 million different ways. But yes, I have learned some very, very, very hard lessons just noticing the stupidity and arrogance of our international development organizations that still do not get it, and it's now 40 years, and I'm getting. That's why my TED talk was so brutal. Yeah, people say it's funny, but remember what I said immediately after. I said we are imperialists, colonialists, and missionaries. And the only way we deal with people is we are either patronizing or paternalistic. And I was referring to the Western arrogant mentality. Remember, the world right now is run in an hegemonic way. The Europeans, the Americans, they still believe that they are a gift to humanity, when in fact they cannot even look after their own self-interest.
Thanks for sharing that, sir. Now we move on to the third segment. This is going to be a little bit lighter area where you can be as creative as possible. First question is, I'm giving you a time machine. With that time machine, you can travel back to your past. You can meet two people of your choice. It can be anybody who you'd like, who inspires you, who you like to meet, and then spend 1 month with each person. Come back to 2020. Only condition to use that time machine is that what you learned from these two gentlemen, when you come back to 2020, you're going to write a book on that. And that will be given worldwide for a youth to read, to learn, whoever is interested in this field. Sirolli Institute will be spearheading it across the world, globally. So who are the two people you would like to meet?
Whoa, what a beautiful question. There is a time in Greek history where the Western philosophical thought and the Eastern philosophical thought coincided.
Wow. Okay.
Who said you cannot step twice in the same river? People would think that Buddha said that, but that man was Heraclitus, was a Greek.
Oh.
So there was a time in Greek pre-Socratic philosophy when East and West were very, very close. One of the most extraordinary concept was the view of what a man is for the pre-Socratic Greeks. Imagine that there is a moment in history where every man in his heart, every man, every woman in his heart knows what is right and what is wrong. And there is a period in Greek history where nobody ever wrote a single line about morality, because it was a time where everybody knew what was right and what was wrong, because you feel it in your heart.
Wow.
So this is Greek humanism, and I would absolutely love to spend a month with Protagoras, and before a monotheistic religion, before we were to be told by the priest what's right and what's wrong. The moment man has to ask somebody what is right and what is wrong, so much of his duty towards himself, his family, and society is lost. Because now somebody else should tell us what's right. So I am absolutely interested. I would love to spend a month with the real humanists, because I never met a humanist. I have there aren't. The person who is capable to stand for himself, to say, I know what's right, I know what is wrong, and it's not popular, but I have to do it. That man, that woman is very, very rare. So that would be one person. I would also absolutely love to spend a month with Abraham Maslow, who is the father of humanistic psychology. Abraham Maslow is a giant. And I believe that all our sociology will one day go from behavioristic. You see, in the West, the dominant paradigm is based on behaviorism, which is you can control people through positive and negative rewards. And this is, 1950s Skinner, who said, you can control everybody, because what you do, every time they do something you like, you reward them, and every time they do something that you hate, you punish them, and naturally they will end up doing more of what you want. Correct. Which makes a society of slaves, because now you manipulate it. So there is, these are called the behaviorists, and there is behavior economics, where they teach you to buy a product even though you don't care for, using manipulation. Well, humanism is completely different, and I believe that humanistic psychology is about how beautiful you are as a human being, and what is the contribution that you can make to society if you were allowed to become and to blossom to your full extent. So what is the gift that each of us should return to the world? The DNA, the capacity, the intelligence that is far beyond education. There are intelligence. People still confuse intelligence for education. That's laughable. We all know people in villages in Africa, in Latin America. They are not formally educated, but they're so smart. They are so smarter than us. So it's not. So Maslow psychology maybe is 60, 70 years old, but has not been transformed into a sociology. So when you go to a university, the university says, these are the courses that you can do, and if you do them well, you will pass. And if you don't, if we don't like what you're doing, you fail. That's behaviorism. A humanistic university where people say, what can we do to help you to grow? And maybe you want a piece of this, a little bit of that, a little bit, because you have a unique mind and you want to do different disciplines. There is no university like this. So I would like to speak to Maslow, spend a month with him to say, Master, how do we go from your psychology to a sociology that infuses the entire world? How can we transform our systems from controlling people to empowering people?
Wow.
And the books could be quite interesting, actually.
Yeah.
Because you tell kids about humanism, the kids will go, "What? You don't have to ask. You don't have to ask the priest to tell you what's good and what is not good." Say, no, just search your heart. What did you do to your friend yesterday? Why you feel embarrassed?
Right.
That is wrong. And maybe it was popular. The fact that you make fun of people, maybe it was popular in the school, but make you feel strange. And you don't have to go to a priest to say, did I do wrong? No, you know that you've done wrong.
This session is actually more than what I had in mind, and the areas the way you the way you're explaining
Hey,
things.
you never know what you find.
No, it's really. I'm really grateful that we are having this discussion, Doctor. Now, the next question is: I'm giving you a magical wand with which you'd like to change. You can change three things in the world. It'll completely change, and three important things which is close to your heart you would like to see changed.
Mhm. The first thing that I would like to see change, I would like to go back to direct democracy, where it's one person, one vote, and it's done electronically. And we then decide which laws should pass and which. I would like the entire country, if they want to go to war, for every single person in the country having to vote for that. Whether they recognize some civil rights, I would like the entire country to go for that. I think that what we have now is a caricature of democracy. Democracy was Greek and was one person, one vote, one man, one vote at that time. I believe that it should be one person, one vote. And because we should be responsible as citizens of what happens. We could not hide behind the politicians to say, oh, they are corrupt, they are fools, they are taking the country in the wrong directions. No, it has to be direct democracy. I love the fact that Brexit was a popular referendum, because now the Brits have nobody to blame. Can you imagine if one politician would have done that? People would say, oh, he did that. And by now it would be an uproar. No, 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 no. You wanted it. So now they are learning. And next time there is a referendum in Great Britain, I promise you, people will go through with a magnifying glass to see, are we sure?
Right.
Because they did not even realize what they were doing. So now they are better citizens, because by having done Brexit with all the consequences of Brexit, they understand what being a citizen means. Not the
Right.
politician, is you. You. And you see where humanism comes back. We don't need the politician to govern us. We govern. And so we decide to go to war and my kids die. I voted for it. So first thing, it would be direct democracy, I think, absolutely. The other thing that I would like to see change, I would like to see change the use of non-renewable resources, because I believe that there is an incredible economic, social, environmental opportunity. And I think that what we need is, instead of going to the moon, I think that the next project will have to be to go renewable energy. So the first thing that I would do, I would put all the money, I will put every single smart person and all the money. I will create an entire university that are looking at energy. I will have a university doing only energy research, and I will fund them with the government money, the best brains, because what we need is a clean source of power, because we have to colonize other planets. I believe in that. I believe that we have to restore the earth. I believe that we will we have the capacity to transform the world, to beautify the world. And I laugh when when I see foreigners coming to Tuscany in Italy, because foreigners come to Tuscany and their eyes pop out, their jaw drops, and they see beauty like they have never seen. And there is nothing natural in Tuscany, not even the shape of the hills. It's all man-made for the last 1,000 years. And it's so beautiful. And people say, what? Yes, man has the capacity to create beauty. So I believe that what we should be doing, we should beautify the world and become custodians, and we should explorers, and we should, I don't have any problem with, humanity coming to 50 billion people. If we are on 5 different planets, it's fine. But I think that we should really learn how to produce vast amounts of renewable energy. If it's true that the sun in one day gives the world the energy requirement for a year, how can we be such idiots not to utilize it? So I think that would be my number 2. So direct democracy, sustainable, abundant, renewable and clean energy, a humanistic sociology where every single person born in the world is given the means to become the best human being that they can possibly become by learning to do beautifully what they love to do. So changing the universities to be responsive, changing the education system to be delivered to everybody remotely. We could, 80% of what we need, we can learn from the remotely right now. 80% of the class. It will be better to abolish the universities and to give the students to go and watch the real masters in their own world. Why would we need to go in a classroom where the professor is somebody that knows a little bit about it, when we can hear recordings of Abraham Maslow in person, or Carl Rogers, or my masters? They're still there on video. You can find them. Of course, there will be not everything is available online, but I think that we could have a curriculum where you say to the students, read these 10 books.
And then
read the masters. Don't read the masters. But of course, this can only happen when you have a student that loves to learn that. And this is why the system has to go from behavioristic to humanistic, from me telling you what you have to pass to get a degree, to me saying what kind of woman you want to be.
Right.
And I will help, I will facilitate your growth for you to become the woman or the man that you want to become. 3 things, small things.
They are not small things. This will change. Wow. Okay. Now the next one is gratitude segment, where you name the people who have who you owe your success to. Key people, key milestones in life. So over to you, sir. You can name them and pay your gratitude to them.
Yeah. Intellectually, Ernest Schumacher, he wrote in 1973 about development. If people do not wish to be helped, leave them alone. This should be the first principle of aid. Wow. And that little phrase was the beginning of my understanding, because I understood that people are not the subjects of our magnificence. People are the actors in their own lives. And so Ernest Schumacher taught me respect who the hell we think we are to arrive and invited to tell people what to do. How dare we? So Ernest Schumacher, extraordinary intellectually, Abraham Maslow, my master, Carl Roger, extraordinary. But then there are real people who have said, we believe in what you want to do. So the first one will be my wife, Martha. First person to say, yes, what you say makes sense. Let's do it. And I could not have done what I've done without her, because nobody really believed me. People say, oh, yeah, but, you know, what are the chances that you go against the entire dominant paradigm? But she said, yeah, let's do it. And she's fearless. And so she said, makes sense. My professor in Australia, Professor Peter Newman, he said to me, what can I do for you to prove that this is possible? So an extraordinary person, and extraordinary, and an extraordinary politician in Australia who said to me, go, I want to see whether you can do this in my community. And it was a politician called Julian Grill. And Julian Grill said, prove it, go for it. But I will, you know, keep you as a consultant. You know, let's see whether you can make it happen. And without him, I would have never been able to prove it in a community, because I would have not been given access. So important, extraordinarily important people in my life. And Australians, which my wife and Julian Grill and Peter Newman, all Australians, and Australians are the most direct, the most no bullshit people you will ever meet. Australians will tell you immediately to your face whether they don't believe in you. Mm-hmm. They are extraordinary people. No, I was very lucky, very, very lucky.
Thank you. Now, I requested 60 minutes of your time. We just touched a little bit over that. And what's your message to the world, sir, in regards with not only sustainable development, but in order to have
the message is an experience from the moment that I came to realize who people really are. It's now 40 years that the only thing I see is beauty. I'm surrounded by beauty. People are beautiful, and so I only see beauty. I'm surrounded by people who are creative and smart, and see, according to humanistic psychologists, all pathology, anger, hate, all pathology is because the person cannot grow. All pathology is because people have not grown. So in that development, there is something stopping them. And so they become upset, angry, and they become thieves, and they deceitful, and they hate, and they kill, and they maim, and it's lack of growth. They cannot love. They have not been given, the environment has not allowed them to grow and become a human. So the moment that you are less than human, you resort to, if I cannot be the best, I will be the worst. But it's a pathology. So I never meet those people, because the only people who invite me are people like you and people who love other people. So, and people said to me, Ernesto, what about the skeptics? What about the cynical people? I said, I don't know them. They never invite me. They never invite me. And when I see them on Facebook, I look at them and I say, "Oh, the poor guy. He must be in such pain." Right now, there is lots of hatred in the world, and the Buddha said, "People who hate will not be punished because hatred is the punishment."
Wow.
So by hating, you are punished every day of your life. And that's the way I see it. I see these poor people who are struggling in pain because they hate, despise, and what kind of life is that? So my message for the world is: look at the beauty. Help people to help
people to bloom. In fact, when you told about when the plant doesn't grow or when the flower doesn't bloom, don't say something bad about the plant or the flower. Change the soil, change the environment, let it bloom, let it grow. A very strong message in a very simple manner and in a very simple words. Any level, whether they are in college, whether they have finished the college, whether they are working, whether they are in a mid-career or they have 30, 40 years, the way you told is extremely good, sir. Extremely good. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you to you.
We are highly grateful that you gave your valuable time, 60 minutes, to share and to discuss part of what you have seen, a small speck of different areas where you have seen, you have experienced. We are really grateful for that, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye. It was lovely meeting you. Bye-bye.
Bye. That was Dr. Ernesto Sirolli from California. His TEDx is extremely famous. He is a noted authority in sustainable economic development. We are very grateful that he allotted 60 minutes of his valuable time to come and share about this important topic in this particular juncture of COVID lockdown. Thank you so much.